anniversary. 17 years ago today, the first detainees arrived in the Guantánamo detention facility. Since that time, 780 men have been detained in that facility. Most have been released over the years without charge. 40 detainees remain at Guantánamo. Some of them have been cleared but not released. Others have never been charged with a crime and continue to be held indefinitely. One of the reasons they cannot be charged is because if they were to go into legal proceedings, a lot of the torture that happened to them would be revealed. Over the years, PHR and other NGOs have worked continuously to try to mitigate the damage done to detainees and to bring some measure of accountability and justice for what was done at Guantanamo in our name, in the name of our country.
Steve, do you miss Fad? Show Steve.
And so PHR has written a number of reports over the years which discuss the medical impact of torture at Guantanamo. Going back to the early 2000s, other reports have talked about the complicity of medical personnel in the design and implementation of the torture regime. And all of those reports can be found at phr.org. Today, to mark this anniversary, we have two guests. First is Dr. Stephen Xenakis, who is a retired brigadier general and is also a psychiatrist. Steve has spent many hours evaluating and observing detainees.
Could you guys please be quiet?
Guantanamo, and he will talk about some of the medical issues, the need for medical treatment, the unfulfilled medical requests that have happened at Guantanamo over the years, the standards of care that should apply, and also some of the medical issues that are arising now that the detainee population is aging. Many of these men who have been there for 16, 17 years are in their late 50s. Then we will hear from Mohamedou Slahi, who was a detainee at Guantanamo for 14 years, where he was brutally tortured during his interrogation. He was released in 2016. He is the author of Guantanamo Diary, the first book written by a detainee while still in custody. It was heavily redacted, but it is available to read. Mohamedou is now in Mauritania, where he speaks to us from there today. And we will hear from both of these gentlemen. We'll hear from Mohamedou about some of the things that happened to him there, his personal narrative, and the ordeal he went through when he had to have emergency surgery. During this discussion, if you want to submit questions, you can put them in the comment section, and we will try to get our guests to answer them. So let's go ahead. Dr. Steve Xenakis will be first to speak. So please go ahead, Steve.
John, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here and welcome to this conversation. As you introduced me, I just clarify that I'm a physician, I'm a psychiatrist, and my role has been to advise a number of the teams and at times the authorities on the treatment and medical care to the detainees in Guantanamo. And that's what I want to speak to that today. We have a challenge going forward, and it's a challenge in terms of the medical planning for those men who are still there. As you said, there are 40. They are aging. And it is a responsibility that we have as the U.S. government to care for them. I mean, we subscribe to the Geneva Conventions. We subscribe to the principle of that as military officers and as the leading democracy in the world. And we need to be able to assure ourselves that we're doing the right thing when it comes to caring for these men. Average age now is 46. A number of them are aging. We have one or two in their 70s, a number in their 60s. And we should be planning for the kinds of illnesses and problems that individuals who get into that age bracket do incur. And so that, as we all know, as we get older, we're going to have problems with heart disease and cancer and a number of illnesses. And that planning needs to come into play. Currently, with all my visits, and I've been going to Guantanamo now for over 10 years, they do not have the capability there to care for these men. And I think that that's going to become more of a challenge over time. They need to have all sorts of diagnostic equipment, MRIs and CT scans, and then if they do get heart disease, they're going to have to be able to do special studies and do treatments. And then, of course, if they get more serious illnesses or cancer, then they're going to have to be able to provide that as well. It's just prudent. It's what we do as military physicians. It's what we do as leaders as we plan for contingencies. This is coming down the road, and it is our responsibility to plan for it. It's the right thing to do. And I can't reiterate again, more strongly what Senator McCain said, as he said repeatedly when he was talking about Guantanamo and a number of these issues that you referenced. It's not about them, it's about us. It's about our democracy. It's about our government. It's about our principles as a military. It's about what we believe in. It's about our Constitution. And we have to acknowledge those principles and do everything we can to carry them out. And in this case, we've got to plan for the medical problems and challenges that these men will develop over the coming years that they're there. So go back to you, and be glad to answer any questions from our audience.
Great. Thanks a lot, Steve, for that overview. Now we're going to turn it over to Mohamedou. Go ahead, Mohamedou.
Is it me?
Yes, it's you. Go ahead.
John? Okay, my name is Mohamedou Salahi. I am the son of camel herder. I'm the first generation in my family to attend school. And I attended school by accident because I wasn't strong enough to go to work. And because the family was moving from the countryside to the city, after so many droughts hit the country and most of our camels died, we were forced to settle in the city. And at a very young age, as a teenager, I won a scholarship to study electrical engineering in Germany. And I finished my study and work. And after my study and work, I moved to Canada, and my mother fell sick, and I had to return home, and I was kidnapped. And after 5 months, my passport was taken away per US government. And after 9/11, I was kidnapped, rendered many times, tortured in Guantanamo Bay. I was released at the end of 2016 to my country, where I'm still, and I'm not allowed to this moment to seek medical treatment that I badly need after so many years of incarceration and deprivation and abuses. When I was taken away from my home, I had sciatic nerve after an accident that I suffered. And I was telling my interrogator that I needed help because I used to take pain medicine and some other therapeutic method to ease the pain. But that was like a godsend to my interrogators because now they know where to hurt me. They forced me in a position that were so painful. And when I asked my Navy officer for help because interrogator wouldn't allow me to take my pain medicine. He tried to help me, but he told me that he can only talk to interrogators because they were in charge and not him. And because the problem in Guantanamo Bay was that the doctors, the staff, the medical staff was part of the interrogation plan. And that was the worst thing that you could expect as a patient. In this, after the special torture plan, I developed like, I went crazy, for the lack of a better word. I could hear voices, and I could hear my family talking to me every day. I could hear music, and I could fly. Actually, one time I tried to fly myself, and I fell face down, and I injured myself, and things like that. And so when the torture plan came to end, I was a complete mess, and the doctor really tried to help me, not anymore part of the interrogation team, as far as I'm concerned. And so I developed this high blood pressure and high cholesterol, even though I was very thin. And then, as I understood from my doctors, the medication they gave me destroyed my gallbladder. And I had this very sharp pain, and one day I collapsed myself, and they took me they start to clean my body and treat me. They told me I have to go through operation very quickly because it was very dangerous. I asked them to contact my family or my lawyer, but I was not allowed. The operation was done, and after that, the pain did not subside. The pain was much worse. I was crying like a child. I couldn't sleep. I was so tired, so tired, exhausted, but I couldn't sleep because of the pain. And with time and a lot of antidepressive medication and pain medication, the pain I start to get used to the pain. They tried different things. And the last thing they said that specialists, when they visit the island, they're going to ask them to try and to see what's going on with me. I told them I don't want anymore because by then I was approved for release. And I told them I want to seek medical care somewhere else outside prison where I have more control over what type of care I receive. Because in Guantanamo Bay, you don't have a choice. And you have to take whatever care they offer you. And here we are in Mauritania. I still have the same pain, and I have like night terror, and for nights on end I cannot sleep, and sometimes I wake up and I cannot breathe, and people from my family, they cannot sleep with me in the same room because I keep saying stuff, grinding my teeth, and I have this headache every single day. And no matter how much medication I take, the headache does not go away. It's like very sharp, and there is nothing that cures it. And I talked to the doctors, everything. They made a lot of tests, but they said they don't know what's going on with my head and other stuff. And I talked to my brother, Dr. Steve, and other doctors, and we arranged to have a hospital in Germany who thankfully accepted me, and they want to give me the medical care I needed for free. But to this day, the United States government refuses to allow me to seek that medical treatment. They refuse to give me that medical treatment, and they refuse for anyone to give me that medical treatment.
Well, that's an important point, Mohamedou. I think that, and we have to ask ourselves, is this part of the legacy from Guantanamo. I mean, here, what you're saying is your medical problems, in your eyes, were directly a consequence of how you were treated, particularly when you first got there. And now you're suffering still with those problems. You must be very aggravated, very upset by all that. How is it that the American government has explained that to you? I mean, have they given you any justification about why they have not approved your travel to get treatment?
Absolutely. Brother Steve, look, I try to be very vocal and very open and very cooperative to the government, my government and the United States government. Unlike a lot of my ex-detainee brother here who are very afraid, very intimidated, and they live in fear. I want US government to allow us to have the same freedom that people have in the United States, where we can have free access to healthcare, access just to live like a human being without resorting to violence, and just peacefully live just like any other free country in the world. But I spoke to them, and they, to this day, they instruct my government not to allow me to travel or to seek any medical treatment. I spoke to none other than the US ambassador in this country, and he was like, he just brushed me off. He was smiling. He said, yeah, we already signed with them. I told him, but how can you do that when you know this is against the Mauritanian constitution and against the United States government's constitution? And he was like, I cannot challenge you on that point, but I'm just telling you that that's the position of my government, and his aim is to enforce it in Mauritania. And this is very, very bad. This is very bad for everyone. Mind you, that I was never convicted. I was never charged, let alone convicted of any crime against your country. I'm just a peaceful person, and I never hurt anyone, and I don't intend to hurt anyone, and I just want to live just like American people. I want the same freedom like your people, like German people, like Danish people. Why is that impossible? Why? I just need an answer, and I'll be on my way. Back to you.
Thanks, Mohamedou. One of the issues that has arisen from the detention facility at Guantanamo is the long-lasting impact of the psychological and physical damage that was done to detainees like yourself. And I'd like to hear Steve also talk about this. And from a human rights angle, I know that you've written about this in your book. Your sense that what were the primary human rights abuses that you perceived that were happening to you while you were in Guantanamo, when you were being rendered there, being incarcerated, and then when you were released?
Well, the first human rights violation is to kidnap you from your family, mafia style, without asking a judge, without telling you what your charge was, and not even give you the decency of taking you to the United States. Because if I have done anything, it would have been against the United States. They said, no, we take you to Jordan, a country where the United States Department of State said that it did not respect human rights, and it did not treat humans with dignity and with law on many occasions. And they take me there. Why? So they torture me, so I could confess to this suspicion that the wrong suspicion they had, and then take me somewhere else. I don't know. So I was rendered 3 times, to Jordan, and then to Afghanistan, and then from Afghanistan to Guantanamo Bay. You know, just like I was forced to go to Afghanistan so that they could say he was in Afghanistan. Can you believe that, taking me in a plane paid by U.S. citizens to Afghanistan so they could put me with people they captured in Afghanistan so I could be, this could be justified. When I arrived in Guantanamo Bay, so I was very sick. I lost a lot of weight, and I was very weak, and I collapsed many times in my cell in Guantanamo Bay. And you cannot receive medical care at the beginning because everybody was there to gather intelligence, including the doctors. They were there, so you give intelligence to the United States government, and let alone separating you from your family, not allowing you to contact them, not allowing you to know what's happened to your family, threatening your family, giving like letters that your mother is in prison and being raped by other inmates. And I can go on. I can talk all day.
Yeah. Thank you, Mohamedou, for going through that painful information, and our viewers who want to know more about Mohamedou's story should read his book, Guantanamo Diary. Steve, I wonder if we could talk about some of the broader medical issues. You alluded to it in your opening about the aging population of inmates, of detainees. What do you believe needs to be done in terms of, if anything can be done, to provide adequate medical care for those that are there, in terms of bringing in new equipment? Or do you think it's important that some of those detainees be able to be transferred to the U.S. for medical care? What is necessary to try to ameliorate, to the extent possible, the medical situation there? Or is it really not even possible within the facility as it is?
I don't think it's practical that we're going to be able to configure the facility over the next 10 to 15 years to take care of the medical problems that these men are going to develop. I could be wrong. There are huge advances in technology and in medical care, and we do have the capability to provide much of it remotely, but I do think it's unlikely. And once, as these men do develop the kinds of problems, even the illnesses that Mohamedou was talking about, we're going to find it very difficult to take care of them in a timely and a manner and sort of meet the standards of care. I think it means that as you get a sick patient there, that it's going to require that they get transferred. Now, that's a very difficult political issue now, but from our standpoint as physicians, in uniform or out of uniform, because the oath we take, we've got to at least put out the facts, and the decision makers need to know what the facts are. So I think that that's the more likely scenario that's going to play out here.
Now, we know that our president has said that he wants to, he made a pledge at one point to double the size of Guantanamo. There are still many politicians who are making suggestions, and commentators making suggestions about putting more people in Guantanamo. What do you feel, Steve? And then Mohamedou, you also can answer this, about the current status of Guantanamo and its future, and the implications for being able to provide adequate care and also legal representation for potential additional detainees.
I think that if they do bring more people there, then they're going to have to considerably build up their medical support. And that's a decision that the government makes. But if they decide that that's what they are going to do for their reasons politically, then they have the responsibility to bring more medical assets down there. then you've got to do the cost calculations. I mean, is that the smartest thing to do? Understand what the cost is, but you've got to meet the standard of care. We said we're going to do that, but that's what we tell, that's what we expect from everybody, and we can't walk away from that.
Right. Thanks, Steve. Mohamedou, let me put the question to you a little bit more broadly about Guantanamo and the symbolism that Guantanamo has for you and other former detainees and the countries of former detainees. How do you view and think about the overall impact that Guantanamo has had on not only the individuals such as yourself, but the broader human rights landscape, and how it's impacted people's views of the United States around the world?
The United States government is the most powerful democracy in the world, and they have the means to uphold and pressure other countries to uphold human rights. But instead, the United States is telling the world very clear and loud that democracy does not work. When you need to get quote unquote down and dirty, you need a dictatorship. That dictatorship was built in Guantanamo Bay. Guantanamo Bay is not a place, it's a concept. We know Guantanamo Bay because I've grown up in Guantanamo Bay. I grew up in Guantanamo Bay under a military dictatorship where we cannot speak, we cannot talk. That's why we went to the West. That's why we went to Europe, so we could speak our minds and ask for our rights peacefully everywhere. And so the United States is telling the world, so they were telling us in the beginning, only Muslim and Arabs don't deserve human rights, don't deserve anything. But as we know now, it looks like American citizens too are not deserving of human rights if the United States the government says so. And this is very dangerous because violation against the human rights of one person is violation of human rights of all humanity. Because today is, to quote the Reverend, and I don't know that's exactly what he said, but something like that. And we see that everywhere. And it's very shameful that the American people are accepting this premise that only American people deserve to be treated in the law, and everybody else is fair game for the most powerful democracy in the world. This is a game, and it's a very dangerous game, because next people who are going to be treated this way are American people. This is so easy to predict. And the only way to end all this suffering that is going on, because out of sight, out of mind, and Steve can speak to this because he knows it. I don't know how much he can tell you, because he's bound by other rules than I am. But people, when the United States sent them outside of Guantanamo Bay, they resettled them in a big Guantanamo Bay where there is no accountability whatsoever, with a dictatorial regime who does not allow them freedom, who does not allow them to seek medical care, who does not allow them the freedom to travel. And the only way is to close this damn place that does not belong to the United States of America. The good people, the decency of American people refuses to have Guantanamo Bay, because you are worthy of treating people with human rights and dignity. I know you, and I know you can do it. Back to you.
Mohamedou, thank you for that very powerful and somewhat chilling summary of what Guantanamo has done to America and the potential impact it will have in the future. Steve, do you have any additional thoughts on the 17th anniversary where we reached today, that you would like to give us as we close, and then maybe Mohamedou also any final thoughts, and then we'll close it out.
Well, I mean, I have great respect for Muhammadu and the powerful statements that he made. Uh, I think that what we need to recognize is that this democracy uh, is founded on the rule of law, and it is the basis of what makes us the nation that we are. And Guantanamo, from the beginning, was identified as a place to send these men because the rule of law did not seem to fully apply. I think that undermines the country. I think it undermines our going forward as a democracy and what's going to continue to make us great. All of us in uniform take an oath to uphold the Constitution. That is what our safety, security, defense, and our viability is about as a country. That's what we need to sustain in every way that we can. It's complex, it's hard, and often, like Muhammadu said, out of sight, out of mind. But we need to bring to the forefront that this democracy is about the rule of law. It's about the rights that each individual has. And when you violate one person's rights, you violate everyone's rights. We all believe that in our various faith traditions. And I think it is very important to us to emphasize that again going forward.
Thank you, Steve. Muhammadu, any final thoughts before we close out?
The only thought that come to my mind is to thank you so much and thank Physicians for Human Rights, those brave people who are saying very loud and clear, we are the true Americans. We represent the Constitution of the United States of America. We represent American people. You are a beautiful face of American people, and thank you so much. You helped me. You helped my family. You helped all those people I know.
Well, I think we might have lost Mohammed there in Mauritania. Anyway, thank you so much, Mohammed. It's really inspiring to hear your story. If anyone is interested more, as I mentioned in Mohammedu's story, you should read his book, Guantanamo Diaries.
Guantanamo Bay.
And if you want to know more about Dr. Steve Xenakis, you can find more about him on phr.org and many other places. So thanks to everyone for sharing this Facebook Live with us today. Please share this video if you benefited from it. It will be easily accessible after we finish today. And if you would like to follow PHR on Twitter, our handle is at P4HR. That's letter P, number 4, HR. So for Steve Xenakis and Muhammadu Slahi, I'm John Bradshaw at PHR. Thank you to everyone for joining us today.